Okay, so we'll continue where we have left. So we have completed two sessions yesterday. One session was the very basic requirements to prepare your PowerPoint presentation, and second one was that understanding about the Greek way of presentation. We had multiple things we have learned, and few rules also we have learned yesterday regarding the communication and PowerPoint presentation. Today, what we are going to do is that when I did one of my training program, means I was taking one of my training about the power of presentation from uh, Harvard Business Review series. Then I have learned this particular exercise or particular skill building process, what I'm just going to share with you right now. Since we are uh, research scholars, and 60 to 70% times we'll be dealing with data, the insight, uh, various attributes related to data. And what people would be loving to hear from us will be the insights that will be generating from the data we are working on. Because in this whole world, so much of information are flowing. Nobody will be interested to listen very subjective related stuff or information which are very generic in nature. So research is something which will get into the core of the data that you are going to collect and bring lots of insights which will be of high interest to our audience. So we'll be dealing with data in a very significant way. So this particular session will talk to you 7 rules that we must keep it in mind while we make our presentation, basically when we deal with a lot of data, because data need to speak out. Yesterday when we talked about this argument, the argument is coming from the data and logic, and from there we build a story. If we are not aware how our data will speak, then we may not make our presentation very effective. So from this perspective, this session is important. Let's understand what are the few things, or specifically 7 things we must keep it in mind while we make our presentation through our data. Number one, make sure that your data can be seen. That's very important. Sometimes we collect so much of data, and sometimes we consciously or unconsciously make that whole Excel sheet put into the PowerPoint presentation and just project it in front of our audience. That is not something that we refer that our data must be seen. That is seen means the inside of the data must be seen. So from that perspective, 4 things we must keep it in mind. Number one, we must use very clear charts, not very cluttered tables. That's one. If the option is given whether to put a table or a chart, so definitely the alternative is better to go ahead with charts instead of tables. Then we must highlight insights with color, with a bigger font and high contrast. Here is the, as I said, we are there to present our insights, not data per se. Data is only a set of numbers, nothing else, until unless your intelligence is getting into those data, bringing something out of this data. So that's very important. Let's understand only insights must go into the presentation, not the numbers. Then keep the text short, visual big, what we have understood in our this rule, which is called 70-30 rule. So in a slide, 70% should be visuals, 30% should be text. So from that perspective, text must be very low as possible. Then fourth point to remember here is that accessibility is very, very important. So whatever we put in the presentation from distance, everybody should able to read it. You must have observed sometimes your audience keep on asking that let's increase the font little bit, make the screen more than 100%. So do not allow such thing happens during your presentation. No disturbance whatsoever related to the slide you are projecting in the slide deck. So from that perspective, if you look something like this, which is coming in the left hand side, it's showing simply bar diagram, lots of text, which doesn't make any sense to us. Sometimes you, as a research scholar, when you make your data or make your own slide reflected on the projector, you yourself will get confused. So do not bring that kind of situation when we are making our data presented. Doesn't matter whether it's a complete PhD data, it's your pilot data, or your conceptualization data, whatever data may be, it has to be good, just like this. You make it the bar diagram as clean as possible, as uncluttered as possible, then make the text very, even the text which is shown here with a tick mark here on the right hand side, that is also not desirable. If you can reduce them to bare minimum, that will be always good. So number one, please make it a point that whatever we put, number one is that if alternatives are given between table and graphs, it has to be graphs, and 70% visuals has to be there, and less than 30% text will be there. So this is first rule. Then going further, rule number two, this is as per the research done by Harvard Business School, and they say these are the 7 rules we must follow. So this is coming from global perspective. So we must follow that so that our presentation, when go to the global level, will also be going along with that global thought process. Second one is the focus most on the points your data illustrates. Sometimes we collect data uh, which carries a lot of aspects of the research that we carry. For example, if you collect data from various subjects, and the subjects could give you the demographic data like age, gender, their education, etc., and some clinical parameters, it could give you the blood pressure, it could give you the SpO2, it could give you the blood sugar level, it could give your heart rate, multiple things it will give. Now question comes, what are those important things that must be shown in that particular presentation to that particular audience? So if your audience is a group of clinical audience, they are just waiting to listen from you how your particular intervention is going to help in reduction of blood pressure level. But in that, instead of that, if you are showing the gender, what is the age distribution, what is the gender distribution, what is the education distribution, that will completely detach the audience from listening to your data. So from that perspective, 4 things we must keep it in mind. Do not just show the numbers, explain what they mean. So if we just, sometimes we have seen presentations coming that, this is my analysis. People just literally say, this is my analysis. And simply they say that much and wait for the audience to look to the table they have projected in the projector. But that is not the thing that it is expected from us as research scholars. We must tell something. What does that means by showing those, numbers? Then highlight the key insight, not every detail. As I said, if it is clinical stuff, you need not talk about all the socio-demographic parameters, what is there. They are very, very immaterial for that particular group of audience. Then what we need to put is that whether there is a reduction in the blood pressure or not. That's all. If it is happening for age group 40 to 50, not 60 plus, make that. As you know, this blood pressure is controlled among the group of people between 40 to 50, but not that much effective for the patients above 60 years of age. So that can be a kind of key insight when we talk about a particular data point that illustrates something. Then connecting data directly to the main argument. So this is the core of everything. As I said yesterday, that 1, 2, 3, 2, 1. So 3 minutes, if you have 9 minutes, one third, that is 3 minutes you spend on argument. Argument is something logical expression where your data must speak to make your argument correct, to make your argument stand to the scrutiny. So that's where argument part, you should bring that core of the data which will justify, which will prove the argument you are making. Then rest of the things will fall in place. Then guide the audience to the so what. So there will be, once you make a statement and an insight, sometimes you can see the audience face. They may not be saying it verbally, but there will be expression in their face. Then what? So what? So what means, that means they are just taking you to that refutation mode, or they are taking to you for that objection mode. Then what? So for that you have to guide, your argument in such a way that your expression will be answered step by step. So for that purpose, what is wrong, again, as I said, nothing too much of crowded things. But now here, I just said one example during my presentation, just, couple of seconds back. If I said, you are doing some intervention, example, let's say, let me give one clinical example so that you can connect very well. Suppose you are doing certain kind of intervention for reduction of blood pressure. So you have given a drug, or you have given some exercises. I know some of you are doing a, some intervention as yoga or wellness. You are just bringing some exercise, and you are saying that such exercise will reduce the blood pressure among the participants. Now, what you have done as per your research design, you have brought some people, that is subject for the experiment. You have asked them to go through that wellness program or intervention. They have gone through. After that, you have measured their blood pressure level, both systolic as well as diastolic. Now what you found, you have done that for a group of 50 people, and the 50 people includes all the people who are above 40 years of age, 40 to 70 years of age, for example. Then what you found, those people who are in the age group of 40 to 50, their blood pressure level has reduced drastically and come to a regular uh, level. But those who are 50 to 60, 60 to 70, their blood pressure didn't uh, come to a normal situation even after that intervention. So this is what your data is showing. Pre, post of that intervention, you say that how much it has normalized. Then based on that, you are making a presentation. And your insight is only, you need not put all the, 42, how much it has gone, how pre how much, post how much, pre how much, post how much. You need not show all these things. Only what you need to show is that this particular intervention is becoming very, very effective for people in the age group of 40 to 50. So for that purpose, you can, for that matter, you can put a graph with highlight for those 40 to 50, and rest of the things you just leave it like that, because you are not going to talk about them. Your results are not very significant there. What people will be listening, yes, this particular intervention works for this group of population. So if that is the case, only those things you highlight in that particular slide, that's it. So some of, if I just remember, some of my students are also here. They're just doing some kind of, optometric, analysis based on some external, AI based app. So some app may show some, you know, better results as compared to others. We may not talk about others. What works for a particular exercise, we must highlight that. So this is the second point. What matters most as far as your research is concerned, we must talk about that and we must highlight through visuals for that point only. We cannot make all the things presented in one slide or through one graph. So that will further confuse the audience mind instead of understanding them very well. So this is the second point. We must keep it in mind. Then going further, the third point is that share one and only one major point from each chart, which I already addressed in my previous slide. But again, I am repeating, this is the third point. We must keep it in mind. Four things: avoid overwhelming the audience with too many insight in one go. And believe me, all of you are listening, and I am talking about my 4 years experience only in DPU. I have seen many presentations of PhD, whether it's a defense, whether it's a pre-PhD, or it is 6 months presentation. Then there I feel all the people, most of 90% of students, they try to, one slide is the findings and every damn thing is put into that one slide. So then what happens? Whole audience are confused. They do not know exactly what the student is trying to do. And the student, by reading all these things, student, he himself or herself gets confused. So when you talk about, if you are making only one chart, please make it a thumb rule. You are going to talk only one inside, not more than one. If you just practice this one thumb rule for all of your presentation, you can see to yourself your clarity of thought, your clarity of communication becomes very strong and very unique. Then each chart should answer a single question, which is the same thing as I have been telling to you. Use color or annotation to highlight the one takeaway. So wherever in that particular graph, if you say that this is the only takeaway, or this is the only wow point, or this is the only point you need to communicate, make that point, either bold or make a color coding of that. Then keep supporting details minimal, move them to notes or appendix. If something more has to be talked, if there you feel that there will be objections, there will be refutations, which needs more logic, more justification, then you can just put them into that note section of your presentation, so that any point of time whenever you review your presentation slides, that will also give you the answer why you just what the background and what is that after effect of that. So if we just look some of these things as example, if you look to the graph which is coming on your left hand side, this is nothing is, nobody can make out anything from this graph. Point A, point B, point C, what does it say? So it doesn't make any sense. But instead of that, if you just put a graph like this, it's a very simple graph. Quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, quarter four. Instead of anything, we are only saying sales grew 40% in quarter four. That's all. We need not talk anything. But what we generally make a statement is that quarter one, it has grown 10%, quarter two, it has grown 20%, then we keep on telling all these things, which makes your audience, as far as number is concerned, very boring and very cumbersome for you as well. So third point is that only focus on only one takeaway, only one point that you want to make, that point very strongly communicated from a particular graph, or for that matter from a particular slide as well. Then we should move further. The fourth one is that label the chart components clearly. And this is one of the major problem that our students make. They simply run that chart either in Excel or in SPSS. They simply copy paste into the slide deck or to the PPT. And when they do that, they most of the time they miss out the axis. What does this x-axis says? What does this y-axis says? That is also not mentioned. then units are 90% times is missed, and what are the categories that each data points are carrying, that is also not taken into consideration. Then title of the graph most of the time is missing, so they do not know whether it's a age wise distribution, whether it's a gender wise distribution, whether it's a disease wise distribution. So nothing is mentioned as the title of that particular graph or chart for which the chart is created by themselves. Then using of jargon or ambiguous abbreviations are a big no-no. So when we talk about, for example, you are just writing CPR done among cardiac patients in pre-hospital care setup. So that is little bit of very difficult for the audience. As yesterday we discussed, some of the audience may be coming from other background which is not purely from clinical setup. So people may not be aware what is CPR. Okay, so you have to make it very simple, and if it is a abbreviation, make sure that whole expansion of that particular abbreviation or things have been done at least once in the slide for the people to know. And even if it is not done, then you make it a point to expand that before anybody is requesting you. What does that mean? Then labels to each and every data point is important to place. That's why do not forget, or when you are reviewing your slide deck, just make sure everything is done. Now, for example, you see the graph like this, you are just putting a line graph, and category 1 is written, nothing is, you cannot make anything out of this graph, which is a big no-no. Now, instead of that, you can see that in this graph, it's written x-axis is quarter, y-axis is revenue in crores. So you can see the graph is showing the quarter-wise revenue. So you need not explain anything. You can simply make a simple statement: the revenue for this particular organization is growing steadily. You need not say anything because everything is reflected in the graph itself. So for us, we'll be focusing something else argument. Then we'll be arguing why this company is doing performing so well. What are the reasons this company is doing so well? There is no point explaining all the things there. But if you are just, instead of right hand side graph, you are showing left hand side graph, you will be getting at least tens of objections from your audience. What is that? Why did not you put y axis? What is this a? Why xyz? All these questions, and your energy will be drained by understanding and looking to the audience, looking to the graph. You are just moving your eyeballs from audience to the graph without knowing what to be told to the audience. So instead of that, make it double checked that you do not drain your energy by explaining very silly things which should have been done before you take your presentation to the audience. And instead of that, you just prepare something, this result, why 100 to 180 without any uh, going down, the revenue is going up. What is the good things they have done? If we can talk about that argument, that will be always good. Now, moving to the fifth point, visually highlight Jyot. There are certain things when people feel, oh, means you bring certain amount of surprise to the audience. So that is very important, because audience, they, you know, uh, just go ahead with the flow without understanding what's happening. So each and every slide, if you can just put that zone, means something which will surprise to the audience or surprise to the community that they are listening to your presentation, it's always good. So do you think it will be just coming just like that? Absolutely no. We have to really work hard to understand about our subject in depth. Then only we would be able to bring that zone in our presentation. You have to find it, you have to look into the data. What is that one thing I'll show so that people's eyebrow will be raised? So identify this most important insight in your chat. All are insights, but something which will just raise the eyebrows of the audience. Then there either you can put a call out symbol, you can put a different color shading, you can just put an animation, anything you can do so that it will attract the attention of the audience, and which maybe they will also be interested to collaborate with you further. Then reduce the distraction by keeping other elements muted. So if you know that something which will distract people's attention not to that zone but others, remove them consciously. So that's how your presentation and your data will be more live than other thing than other things. Going further, if you look, this is very simple and very, not very unique chart. But if you look, you want to highlight that here the quarter four result is a aha zone. You need to talk a little bit more on that zone, why that result has suddenly spiked up. And you are not talking about the number, but you are talking there about the few interventions or few things that company has done, why that number has gone from drastically well. So these are the aha zones in each and every graph. Only thing is that we have to identify that what is my aha aha zone in the particular graph or particular slide. So this is your fifth point, and I think it's very simple and easy to remember. But please remember, as a research scholar, these are our daily breads. We cannot ignore this, because this is how we'll have to grow in our career. We have to grow in our research, profession. So we have to understand and learn how to do it gradually in all of our presentations. Now, sixth one is write a slide title that reinforces the data points. Now, when we talk about anything in the data, yesterday also we discussed that if you look to your title of your slide, it has to be very precise, very clear, and contains the thread of your presentation in a very affirmative way. Now, when we talk about the data, and the title must talk also similar thing which correlates to each other. It should not happen you simply, there are options people write analysis or findings. Findings is not one title that we can just put it as a title, because each person of your audience, where you can create an impact, they will be reading to your title of that slide deck, of that particular slide. If anybody know, even if you do not say this is finding, everybody knows that it is finding. But what is that finding? If you can just write, the quarter four results have shown incredible growth at 150%. Imagine this is one sentence is written as the title of your slide versus findings. Then definitely that title, which talks about little bit about more about your results, then it is always good. At least you can save your time not talking of that which is written as the title. So we have to be very careful, and these are very simple things but very important things. What people in Harvard Business School, they go to learn this. I spend more than 3 hours to learn these 7 points, what to be written in the slide deck. So that's where, don't use generic titles like sales data. Write headlines with style that Q4 sales jumped 40%, fastest growth of the year. So that itself will bring lots of attention of the audience to that. Why does it happen? And immediately there will be objection, people will be having their mind, and that you can drive them to a aha zone. Then, oh, hold on, because of this growth is happening. Now this is a kind of argument that a research scholar will be always looking ahead to throw that to the audience, to create that impact at that point of time. So let the title answer the question in the chart that raises. Audience should understand the takeaways at a glance. So that's what we have been discussing. If we look to this, you can see revenue by quarter. We know that there is, if you look to this chart, the title is written revenue by quarter or sales data. This is very clear. quarter is there in x-axis and numbers are there in y-axis. So it is there. But instead of that, if we can just put a title, you can see revenue grew 40% because percentage is not there, only numbers are there. And we are showing a symbol there. You can see that, from quarter 3 to quarter 4, 40% jump. Then what we are just doing, this becomes our R zone in the slide deck, as well as we are just giving that heading. You can see revenue grew 40% in Q4. That's the strongest quarter of 2024 or 25, whatever the year we are just talking here. So that's how you can reinforce your insight through the title that you give for your slide. And this one thing many researchers, they do not give at all importance and attention. So if we can just learn that from the beginning itself, from the beginning of your research career, then it's always good. So learn these things. This will give you huge amount of dividend going further as a very, very good presenter for your research things. Now we'll go to the last one, present to your audience, not to your data. And these are very, very common mistakes we do that I don't know if all of you have seen this. You can see, and all of the presentation, you recall your own experience. Most of the time, we just look to the slide deck, we look to the projector and read the data by making our back to the audience, which is a very, 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 very odd situation that could ever happen to any of the presenter. So if we are prepared, we know what we have done. We have spent 6 months, 1 year, 3 years. We know what we are just talking. Still, we'll be looking to this data and making presentation. That shows we are not at all confident. That shows we are not caring about our audience. That shows I do not know what I have spent time in last 6 months. So these are some of these things as a professional that doesn't good to be attached to us as a researcher. So I request all of you, and this is a you know a, a very, very submissive request to all of you. Please do not do that. And you know why it happens? It happens because of our unpreparedness. It's not like that we are not capable of doing this, because we are not spending enough time for that. That's the reason we lose confidence. We just look to the data and read it. It sounds as if we are making presentations to the slide itself rather than to the audience. But instead of that, you know what is there in the slide deck. Okay, so when we make a presentation, do not ever look to the data which is presented. And as a solution, make a piece of paper in your hand. Just you can carry 2-3 pages of paper, even not to read that. If you do not know what is reflecting in the slide deck in the projector, but you need to recall, you can just refer to to a piece of paper in your hand, just to recollect. Okay, these are the things is written. Not to read, just to ensure that you have just got them back and you remembered them. Then only it works, and that shows that your professionalism into this. So this is very, very important point. Make sure that you take care of these things. You always face towards audience, not back to the audience. Now, there is also one thing we must keep it in mind, what we call as a glance test. So how we do things, that we prepare everything, we make our slide deck ready. Then all the time before taking your slide ready for presentation, or on that presentation in a pen drive to carry with you to your presentation room, just do a glance test. What is glance test? Glance test says, if you look to a slide deck for 3 to 4 seconds, not more than that, 3 to 4 seconds, then you should able to make a sense what is there in the slide. If looking to that slide for 3 to 4 seconds, you are unable to make a sense what is there in the slide deck, then this slide deck does not clear this glance test, and this needs a relook. This needs modification entirely or partially so that it should go through that glance test. And if yourself do the glance test, it may not proper. So what you can do is that run it through to your one of your friends, one of your colleague. Simply say that, hey, just you cannot say that this is that, and give your feedback. No, you just open one slide and ask your colleague, hey, can you just tell me what you are getting out of here? And if that answer from your colleague matches to what is there in your mind, then this clears the glance test. Then go to the next slide. Please do this. This is fantastic. And you are just getting this reviewed by one of your colleague who may give you better feedback in terms of the content, but more than content, the very basic objective, basic purpose for which we are making this slide deck to taking to that presentation room, that has to be checked through this glance test. And glance test is a very, very fantastic and powerful tool, and I love this glance test. Anytime, personally, I'm just telling, whenever I go, I just ensure I do a glance test through some of my colleagues. Please do that as a last preparation to your slide deck. And one more request to all of you, do not ever take that very, very, lightly. Okay, these are the set of audiences. Let's go and just, get it done. Do not ever do that. Even if you have a set of students who are basically MBA students or UG students, even if you are going to them to make a presentation, make sure all these things are taken into account, because they are also have the right to get the best from you. So do not ever take anything for granted. Spend good amount of your professional time, because that's where you will be making the impact in the audience. That's this audience will just take you to the next level when you are just talking about your research. So please do this and take all of your presentations very, very seriously, because that is the reflection of your character when you are just talking to somebody else by using something. So these are the 7 things we must keep it in mind while we deal with our data. It's all about talking one thing at a time, talking one insight at a time, not to cluttering our the things that we are just making a presentation. Always make face towards the audience, not back to the audience. They're very, very simple things. It's nothing new. But sometimes what we do is that we do not take them very, very seriously. Because of that, we as a presenter becomes little ineffective. So to make us more effective, we have to